A long time ago, in a quiet Zen monastery, two monks, an elder named Kaido and a young novice named Taro, were sent on a journey to a distant village. As they walked through the forest and fields, they talked of many things: mindfulness, discipline, and the nature of the mind. After traveling for many hours, they came upon a large river. The water was swift and deep, making it difficult to cross. As they stood by the bank, they saw a beautiful woman standing nearby, dressed in fine clothes, clearly distressed. She couldn't cross the river on her own. Seeing the monks, the woman approached and asked for help, but the young monk, Taro, immediately felt conflicted. They had taken a vow not to touch women as part of their practice to control desire and maintain discipline. Kaido, however, without hesitation, calmly walked over to the woman. With a nod, he lifted her onto his back and carried her across the river. Once they reached the other side, he gently set her down. She thanked him and continued on her way. The elder monk bowed slightly and resumed their journey without a word. Taro, though, was deeply troubled. As they continued walking, he couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. How could his master, a revered elder, break their sacred vow? His mind churned with confusion, judgment, and an uncomfortable stirring of desire that the woman's presence had awakened in him. Hours passed and Taro's thoughts only grew more restless. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he blurted out, "Master, how could you carry that woman? We are monks. We've taken a vow to avoid touching women, to free ourselves from desires like lust. And yet you carried her across the river without hesitation." Kaido turned to him and smiled gently. "Taro, I set the woman down on the riverbank hours ago, but it seems you are still carrying her." The young monk was stunned into silence. Kaido continued, "Lust, desire, and attachment. These are not just in our actions, but in our thoughts. It is the mind that clings, that nurtures desire, even after the moment has passed. I carried the woman because it was necessary in that moment, but I let her go the moment we crossed the river. You, however, have carried her in your mind all this time, feeding your desire and judgment." Realizing the depth of his master's wisdom, Taro bowed his head. He understood that the real challenge wasn't merely following rules, but learning to control the thoughts and emotions that arise within. Desire, like any other feeling, could be acknowledged and then let go, rather than allowed to take root in the mind and grow into something larger. As they continued their journey, Taro reflected on the lesson. He knew now that to overcome lust and desire, it was not enough to avoid certain actions. He must learn to release the thoughts and attachments that arise and let them pass, like the woman crossing the river. Lesson: lust and desire are not just physical actions, but arise from the thoughts and attachments we carry in our minds. By feeding these thoughts, even when we act in accordance with rules or vows, we allow desire to persist and grow. True control comes not from suppressing or avoiding what is in front of us, but from recognizing when our minds cling to these desires and learning to let them go. The story teaches us that we can encounter temptation and desire, but it is how we deal with those thoughts internally that determines whether we are truly free from them. Like the elder monk who helped the woman without becoming attached, we can face moments of temptation, acknowledge them, and then release them without carrying them with us. Conclusion: overcoming lust is about mastering the mind. It's not simply about avoiding temptation, but about learning to let go of the thoughts and feelings that tempt us. We may encounter desires in life, but by practicing mindfulness and non-attachment, we can acknowledge them, release them, and continue our journey without burdening ourselves with unnecessary thoughts. Lust, like any other emotion, can be transcended when we stop carrying it in our minds and learn to let it pass.